So I'm travelling deep into southwest Wales to go and complete a Dirac Live calibration for a customer. But I've made a pit stop in Bridgend at the UK headquarters for REL Acoustics, because within the last week, REL made a pretty big announcement of not just one, but two brand new reference subwoofers, the No.31 and the No.32. And this is a big deal if you are into high-end audio, especially high-end hi-fi, and of course I am. And I really wanted to see and hear these brand new subwoofers for myself as soon as possible. So I've literally jumped at the chance to pop in and see REL. And I've even brought a tape measure with me because I want to see those 31s. They look like they could fit into my room. So I brought the tape measure to check. And you know what it's like? If we really want something, well, then we'll bloody make it fit, won't we? We'll make it fit. And here it is, the brand new reference, top of the range flagship subwoofer from REL, the No.32, and she is a real beauty. And my first question to REL was, where do you get your names, or I suppose numbers, from? And they told me that really 32 is essentially how many years this product has been in. And the 32 replaces the previous flagship subwoofer, the No.25, which was REL's 25th anniversary subwoofer. So 7 years on is obviously 32. So their naming actually has meaning, and I think that is really cool. But the first thing that hits you about this subwoofer is its size. This is not a large subwoofer, this is a huge subwoofer. And to try and give you some kind of scale, I'll just kind of move my head maybe. If that helps at all. And it's also a very heavy subwoofer, weighing 85 kilograms, as you see it here, and over 100 kilograms when it's packed for shipping. And then the second thing that hits you is the beautiful teardrop type shape that REL call curvilinear. And it's not really something that I think the audiophiles generally think about too much, but how are these lovely curved sides? How is this teardrop type shape created? And by all accounts, REL use a special process where they take the material, which is 30mm Australian MDF, and they blast it with RF frequencies to the point where the binding agents, I suppose the glues, the binding agents within the MDF start to soften. And then once that's at the correct point, they use a hydraulic ram to press, I suppose, and form this lovely shape. And once the MDF cools down, obviously the binding agents then lock this shape in place. And the machine or the chamber that's used to do this cost $500,000, and it's a 21-step process. And think about that whole process just to create that cool shape, just for two sides of a subwoofer. It's pretty crazy, right? And then the driver in the No.32 is also pretty cool to see in the flesh, but actually quite hard to get on camera just because of the way it reflects light. And it's a fully carbon fiber 15-inch driver with a 4-inch voice coil. And some of you might think it looks very familiar as a driver, and REL say that's because it's an evolution of the driver that was used in the No.25, with updated materials being used in the surround and spider to make it quicker, especially quicker in the 20 to 25 hertz region. And also different to a lot of other REL subwoofers is the No.32 is a single driver subwoofer with no passive radiator. On the other side of this amplifier plate is a 1000 watt Class D amplifier. So with 1000 watts, a large enclosure and a 15-inch driver, we should expect some big bass output and really good bass extension. And REL say -6 decibels at 15 hertz. But I think one of the real reasons the audiophiles love REL subwoofers so much is because of that high-level connection, which allows you to very easily integrate REL subwoofers into hi-fi systems and, of course, AV systems. And that means that the subwoofer sees the exact same full-range signal that your speakers see, but inside the subwoofer is a low-pass filter so that the subwoofer only plays bass notes or bass frequencies. And this is a really key area of REL subwoofers. And Inside the number 32 is obviously REL's very best filter. They call it the natural sound filter, and it's intended to be as fast as possible and as fast as your main speakers. And this is also an area that REL say they have made some big improvements with the number 32 over the number 25, which obviously it replaces with a better natural sound filter that uses pure polypropylene capacitors. To integrate a subwoofer with our main speakers using a high-level connection means we need some controls to adjust the crossover frequency and to adjust the level and phase. And that is what is missing from the rear subwoofer plate. And it's missing because all of the controls are made using a very nice quality remote control. And then there is a digital display on the front of the subwoofer to see what you are adjusting. And some audiophiles might say that this is a more old-fashioned maybe way of doing things rather than using some kind of phone app. But let me assure you, once you've used the remote control, it makes a hell of a lot of sense to set things up that way because it's just a very nice way of doing things. And then let's face it, once you've got your subwoofers dialed in, then you're probably going to put that remote control away and hopefully never need to use it again. And interestingly, one of the options that you have with the number 32 and the number 31 subwoofers is there is a built-in parametric equalizer. And REL will say to use this with caution. It's really intended as a sound trimming tool rather than a full bass management tool. But either way, there is two parametric filters that you can use. Both of them have a plus and minus decibels worth of range, and you can select any frequency you need between 23 and 90 hertz. And I really like the handles on the side. Obviously, they are useful for lifting such a heavy unit, but they just aren't very nice to look at. And the paint finish is exquisite with 12 coats of vinyl lacquer being applied, with each subwoofer taking 5 weeks in total to build. So how much is all this subwoofer awesomeness going to cost you? Well, £10,000 each. Given the size and cost of the number 32 subwoofer, it's clearly not intended for every audiophile. It's intended for who I would call the lucky few audiophiles, the lucky few that have the size and obviously the budget to accommodate it. And sadly, that is not me. But that is where the number 31 subwoofer I think is really very interesting because it's designed to give as much of the number 32 subwoofer performance as possible, but from a smaller package intended for smaller rooms. So what are the differences between the number 31 and number 32? Firstly, the physical size difference is extremely significant, as is the weight, with the number 31 weighing in at a measly 52 kilograms. And I say that obviously jokingly, clearly 52 kilograms is still a significantly heavy subwoofer and still definitely a two-man lift. The driver is essentially the same, a fully carbon fiber design, but it's 12 inches, not 15 inches. And it's driven by the same 1000 watt Class D amplifier as the number 32, but it's tuned down slightly to 900 watts. And you might think that the smaller driver and the smaller cabinet would mean significantly less bass performance or maybe less bass extension, but REL was saying that the number 31 will give you 17 hertz at minus 6 decibels, so not drastically different to the larger number 32, which is really very interesting. However, I'm sure we all know that there is no replacement for displacement, so I'm sure in a larger room, the number 32 would be able to scale up and be much bigger and grander sounding in larger rooms, but the 31 is intended for smaller to medium-sized rooms. So I think the spec and performance is really very interesting. And then everything else is the same build process, the same styling cues, the same awesome remote control. It's all the same as the number 32. And the price is also probably good news for some audiophiles. The price of the number 31 will be £7,000 for each subwoofer. So again, yeah, it's a smaller cabinet and smaller enclosure and designed for smaller rooms, which is fantastic. But again, clearly the number 31 is not intended for every audiophile. It's still intended for the lucky few audiophiles that have the budget to accommodate it. And I just want to talk briefly about a listening session that I had just before coming on camera with the number 31 supporting the system that hopefully I'll show you on camera now with some Dynaudio Evoke speakers, some tower speakers. I think the Evoke 50 being powered from a Yamaha AV receiver, obviously just running in stereo and using a REGA CD player and streaming straight into the Yamaha from Spotify. And we was listening to a whole different variety of music. There was some, effective mushroom in there for a bit of bass, subwoofer effects, but mixed in with some vocal and some classical and some rock music and all sorts, really. And obviously, it's difficult to come somewhere and just listen to a system and a subwoofer and make any kind of assessment. That's definitely not what I'm going to do. But what I was super impressed with was just how tight and controlled and clean the bass was. And it was authoritative, powerful and big, but clean as well. I mean, super clean. And there was a lot of deep bass in music that was just as super clean as the higher bass notes. And that was the bit that's really interesting to me, because really I think that's what this subwoofer is intended to do. When you read the REL explanation, it's intended to give you more clarity and speed through the deeper bass notes in the sort of 25 to 20, maybe above that a little bit sort of region, which is deep bass. So it's interesting to hear it, because I feel like that's probably a region that's not necessarily well resolved with a lot of subwoofers. Yeah, we get a lot of deep bass presence, but being able to resolve the musical information in that presence is a completely different thing. And we was listening to, I think it's Fink, the famous Fink album that everybody listens to, like the live album, and there was a part of one of the tracks where I think it was the guitarist was just hitting the guitar with their hand, or maybe it was a drum. It was difficult to tell, but you could super clearly hear the impact transient of that hit, which is a deep bass note, followed by the bass decay, presence decay. And you could clearly track the transient of the impact and then the full decay of that note, one after the other, in big scale. Like filling the room with that bass note, just letting that bass kind of wash over you and feeling the impact, feeling the transient, hearing the transient, and then that bass note will just wash over you. And I've listened to that same song 100 times before, and that's never happened to me before. I've never noticed that before. And I assume it's just because, the resolution of this subwoofer is just that much higher through that particular range, through that particular frequency range. So that's been my big takeaway from that demo. And the knock-on effect is, I love subwoofers. I use subwoofers a lot, and I do really love the effect of subwoofers. They make a huge difference to audio systems, but very rarely have I felt like really lustworthy towards a subwoofer, if that makes sense, because give me a good quality subwoofer like maybe the REL S510s that I've got at the moment, and I can work some magic with them. But this particular one has really, really got me excited. So I was going to say to you guys, would you like to see me review a pair of these? Would you like to? I mean, I would personally love to. And it would be obviously a big task. So let me know down below in the comments section. I want to start like a petition to put to REL, should Terry review a pair of the brand new Mark number 31s? Should Terry do so? So let me know down in the comments section, and I'm going to use that to hopefully twist REL's arm. So I've just had another listening session, this time with the number 32 subwoofer in place of the number 31, supporting the exact same hi-fi system. But the big difference this time was that REL gave me the remote control and allowed me to integrate the subwoofer and set it up. So I just naturally went crazy and turned the crossover up, turned the volume up, and turned the volume of the amplifier up just to see what the subwoofer could do and how much it could kick my ass in the listening chair. And it didn't disappoint, of course. It's clearly an exceptional subwoofer that would, I'm sure, scale up fantastic in an even bigger listening room. And just to point out, if you haven't seen any of my previous videos here at REL, this is REL's demo room that I've been shooting this video in. So it's a working room, it's a working demonstration room. So there's stuff in here, it's busy in here, and it's a really interesting one because the bigger subwoofer sounds very, very, very similar, obviously, to the smaller subwoofer. The 32 sounds similar to the 31, but you can hear a difference. You can hear it just has more authority deep down, as you would expect. But actually, that number 31 has really stood out to me as a little bit of a star subwoofer, possibly because it's more relative to my own kind of life and system and room size. But the number 31's really stood out. Really enjoyed it. And that's how I want to finish the video, really, just by saying a huge thank you to REL Acoustics because I dropped this on them that I was going to be in Wales at this particular day, and they allowed me to come in here and be the very first press, and I think the first person to see and hear these brand new 31 and 32 subwoofers. So what a treat it's been, what a fantastic experience it's been, and yeah, and they've definitely left their mark on me. So a huge thank you to REL Acoustics. And I suppose on that note, I just want to thank you for watching the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful and helpful. It's been really just a piece of editorial. It's not been a review or anything like that, just a piece of editorial to hopefully give you some idea of what these subwoofers look like, a little bit of an inclination of what they might sound like, and hopefully just an enjoyable video to watch. So obviously, if you have enjoyed it, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the Pursuit of Perfect System YouTube channel, of course, if you'd like to see more videos like this, and especially if you'd like to see a review of these. If you'd like to see me a review, it's got to be a pair, right, of the number 31s. And remember, sign your name below in the comment section as a petition to make that happen. So yeah, thank you very much again for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all soon. Take care. Bye.